There are adults walking around right now who still believe rest has to be justified. People who feel guilty sitting down, people who apologize for needing help, people who over-explain simple decisions like they're presenting evidence in a courtroom, people who panic when someone sounds slightly disappointed in them. And most of the time, those patterns did not appear out of nowhere. They were learned, usually slowly, usually quietly, and often inside homes where love felt connected to performance, helpfulness, obedience, achievement, or emotional management. Some children learn very early that being easy keeps the peace, so they become low maintenance, helpful, hyper-aware, emotionally perceptive. They notice moods quickly. They try not to upset anyone. They become the child who says, "I'm fine, don't worry about me, it's okay," even when it isn't. And adults praise those children constantly. They're so mature, they're so responsible, they never ask for anything. But what people often miss is that many of these children were not actually carefree. They were careful. There's a difference. Some children learn that love feels safest when they are useful. So they begin earning belonging instead of simply experiencing it. They become emotional caretakers, high achievers, peacekeepers, overfunctioners, children who can read the emotional temperature of a room before they can fully understand their own feelings. And years later, those children often become exhausted adults, adults who feel responsible for everyone, adults who feel guilty disappointing people. Adults who cannot relax because somewhere deep in their nervous system, they still believe their worth is connected to what they provide. And that creates a very painful cycle. Because no matter how much they accomplish, it never feels like enough. Not permanently. The relief is temporary. The approval fades quickly. The internal pressure returns. So they work harder, try harder, explain more, give more, overextend more, because exhaustion starts feeling emotionally familiar. Some people were never taught that they could simply exist without constantly proving their value. And one of the clearest signs of this dynamic in childhood is over-explaining. Over-explaining is rarely just about communication. It's often about fear. Fear of being misunderstood, fear of being painted unfairly, fear of conflict, fear of disappointing someone, fear that if people fully understand your intentions, connection could be withdrawn. So many adults learned growing up that emotional safety depended on making your case, explaining your reasoning, defending your motives, proving you weren't selfish, proving you weren't lazy, proving you weren't difficult. Some people became tiny attorneys inside their own homes, always preparing evidence, always trying to avoid emotional consequences before they happened. And if you grew up in emotionally unpredictable environments, that habit can become deeply wired into your nervous system. You begin anticipating reactions before they occur. You rehearse conversations in your head. You mentally prepare defenses for situations that haven't even happened yet. Because your body learned, if I explain myself well enough, maybe I can stay emotionally safe. But eventually, that becomes exhausting, especially in adulthood, especially in marriage, especially in parenting, especially in friendships. Because you start carrying responsibility for emotions that were never fully yours to carry. And many women, especially mothers, live inside this pressure constantly, trying to hold everything together, trying to make everyone okay, trying to prevent conflict before it starts, trying to keep the emotional ecosystem stable at all times. And eventually, they burn out. Not because they're weak, but because human beings were never meant to emotionally perform for belonging 24 hours a day. Sometimes people ask, why can't I just relax? And often the answer is because your nervous system learned that relaxing was dangerous. If you stopped producing, would people still value you? If you stopped helping, would people still need you? If you stopped anticipating everyone else's emotions, would relationships still feel secure? Those fears run deep, especially for people who became emotionally useful very young. And healing from that does not usually happen overnight. Because intellectually understanding something is very different from emotionally feeling safe enough to live differently. You can know you deserve rest and still feel guilty taking it. You can know healthy people don't require endless explanations and still feel panic when someone misunderstands you. You can know your worth is not tied to productivity and still feel anxious doing nothing. That's because healing is not just cognitive, it's nervous system work too. It's slowly teaching yourself, I do not have to audition for love. I do not have to collapse from exhaustion to deserve care. I do not have to emotionally disappear to keep relationships. I do not have to explain every boundary to exhaustion. I do not have to earn humanity through depletion. And for many people, that realization is life-changing because eventually you begin understanding something that should have been taught much earlier. Your worth was never supposed to be conditional, not on performance, not on perfection, not on usefulness, not on how easy you were to handle, not on how much emotional weight you could carry without complaining. You were worthy before you became impressive, and sometimes healing begins the moment you finally stop trying to earn what should have been given freely all along. Thank you for tuning in to Recovering Perfectionist Mama, Grace in Progress. My name's Buffy, and I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.